The Witcher games got us all excited for the upcoming Witcher movie that's supposed to come out in 2017, and it's going to be directed by Tomasz Bagiński, who's the author of the trailers for The Witcher games. However, there was one abomination that was called The Hexer that was released in early 2000s, and, well, we decided to survive that movie and prepare a short review for you. Here's the review of The Hexer.
A small note before we begin. Back then, the name used for a monster slayer was Hexer, but since The Witcher is the one used these days, I'm going to stick to this one. Andrzej Sapkowski and his Witcher saga became hugely popular with every following book being released. Finally, once The Lady of the Lake was published and Geralt's adventures were concluded, Polish filmmakers decided that it's high time to direct an adaptation of Sapkowski's novels in the form of a TV series and a film that was created almost by accident. So back then it was called The Hexer, it had a really high budget, at least for Polish movies, and the best Polish actors at hand. Nothing could go wrong, right? Wrong. That thing was a disaster. But we'll get there. The movie was directed by Marek Brodzki, who maybe didn't have too many movies made on his list, but he seemed like a pretty decent choice for a director. Sapkowski was directly involved in the script, but he wasn't the only writer, and he later described the whole work in the movie as a very, very, very bad experience. It might also come from the fact that the movie went more into the story told by the comic book about Geralt released in the 90s, rather than using the books themselves. Anyway, the movie is an adaptation of the story we could read in the first two short stories collections, The Last Wish and The Sword of Destiny. The main focus in the movie is on the theme of destiny, both in terms of love between Geralt and Yennefer, and Geralt's unusual bond with Ciri. We also get to see how the Witcher became the Butcher of Blaviken. However, there's a lot of idiotic things added to the movie in terms of the story. For example, one ex-Witcher's personal vendetta against Geralt, who saw the guy murder innocent people for supplies back when he was still a Witcher, and Geralt was training to become one. Oh, and there's also Renfri's and that ex-Witcher's collaboration in butchering all the priestesses of Melitele, and such a thing happens nowhere in span of the 8 Witcher books that we got. So, come on, who could come up with such a bullcrap? When it comes to casting, I have really mixed feelings. First of all, there's a lot of background characters who just fit into the world of The Witcher the way they were presented, since they're made in a very Slavic kind of way. So yeah, you get that specific vibe with these. I do have some issues with some story-sensitive characters though. I'm not going to name any specific actors, but the thing is, they seem out of place. I guess being in the Witcher movie was a nice thing to have in your resume, but not everyone felt the specificity of that world, and they couldn't portray it well in their acting. When it comes to the main characters, it's varied as well. I personally love Michał Żebrowski's Geralt, and I feel that he did a great job with portraying the character. I don't mind Yennefer being the way she was in the movie, I just wish they wrote better dialogues for her. And then there's Dandelion, who, just like in the games or books, you either love or hate. I like him a lot for his acting and singing, but at the same time I feel that this is not Dandelion I imagined while reading the books. Then there's also the leading priestess of the Temple of Melitele, who did a wonderful job, but she's simply a great actress. When it comes to Ciri, there's not much to tell. She's just a kid who you like for being Ciri, but you don't get too emotional with her on screen. And then there's a whole bunch of problems. First of all, someone who worked on characters designs and costumes should never find work again. Imagine Geralt looking okay-ish in his Witcher armor, but at the same time sporting a katana sword instead of a regular Witcher swords. What the hell? Who could even think that this might be a good idea? I also burst into tears laughing when I saw the Dryads. Just come on, did anyone see this before the movie came out in cinemas? And yeah, there's also a scene where Ciri is being held captive with other children, but she's kept separately with a mask on her head that looks like someone had a really hard BDSM fetish. So, not cool guys, not cool. Special effects and monsters designs deserve extra attention. Every monster Geralt fights, except for one to which I'll come back in a moment, looks definitely made out of rubber, and it seems like someone was poorly puppeteering it. Or the little dragon that we see during the quest for finding the dragon's treasure, Do you remember these wooden toys on a stick that had wheels on it and you could drive them and they'd either flap their wings or move their arms around? Yeah, that small dragon looks exactly like it, and it makes weird sounds. But when we're talking about dragons, the golden dragon is a thing of misery. Lots of my friends laughed that 90% of the film's budget went for animating that golden dragon, and it's still pretty shit. And it cracks me up every time when I hear Dandelion saying in awe, "Dragon, you're so beautiful." No, the only conclusion that can be made here is that there was no one in Poland at that time who knew how to create proper CGI. Let me remind you that Lord of the Rings came up in similar period, and there's a grand canyon of quality between the way CGI was implemented in both these movies. Is there anything good in that movie? Well, the music created by Grzegorz Ciechowski is definitely on the upside. Although it's totally different from what we now know from Witcher games, it had its really good vibe and complemented Polish landscape well. If the movie was half as good as the music, I wouldn't be half as negative about it now. It goes without saying that before CD Projekt Red's games came out, there was no good portrayal of Geralt and his adventures anywhere apart from the books. So how good is the Hexer actually? Well, I guess I'd give it a 4 out of 10, because it actually has some really nice music and Geralt is quite a nice portrayed character, but the whole bunch of downsides of the movie is just too overwhelming to give it more than a 4.
So that's our review of The Hexer, and I really hope that the next year's Witcher will be much, much better than that. And I think Baginski is the quality assurance of the upcoming movie. Thank you for watching. See you next time.